Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Game Junk Reviews. This time we'll be featuring the game Ghost of Tsushima for the PlayStation 4. My name is Frank.
My name's Andrew.
And no Sean today. We all know he's the worst gamer ever. He was bullshitting me today that he has 8 hours, 10 hours into Ghost of Tsushima. I'm not buying it.
No chance.
But he is moving as well. That's the real reason, or else he would have joined us. So totally forgivable. I hope everything's going okay. I offered up my help. If he has to put stuff together, it's not been a good weekend. That's all I can tell you. He's probably snapping right now. But in lieu of Sean, we have two hardcore gamers joining us today. And definitely a hardcore, one extremely hardcore Japanophile. What would we call that? What's the term?
Did you think that was for you, Dax? Or
no, I was like, I thought he was going to say one thing, and he didn't. I'm like,
he's a mild Japanophile too. Is there an official term for the lovers of the Japanese culture?
I don't know.
No?
Yeah.
Well, you would know it if you...
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're joined by Scott. Welcome,
Hello.
Scott. Thank you. Nice.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you. And Dax Gordine as well.
thanks for having me, guys.
Oh,
So
thanks for joining us.
of course. So I was surprised to realize that you guys put this on. Like, our faces are going on this now, or what?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You guys are like YouTube stars.
If you
getting
count,
legit.
100 views as YouTube stars, absolutely,
Nice.
we are
100
YouTube
is
stars.
legit.
We got a few videos over
Let's try
100.
and push 150 on this one.
We got a few over 150. We're
Uh-oh.
real.
Oh boy.
That's my place. I get that a lot on my street. A lot. I think
They're
they're
coming
pulling.
for you,
they're-
Dax.
I can see the lights. I think they're pulling into my unit.
Legit.
Well,
Burn the computer.
The guy above me.
The one
like,
time we record you on a
ambulance.
podcast, you're going to get arrested.
No, it's not me. It's like the guy above me is like
You don't know
150
yet.
years old, and the ambulance always they had to cart him out last night or a couple nights ago. They've gone by. I think we're good.
All
Sorry,
right.
Hopefully-
let's continue.
Hopefully he doesn't leave the tub on.
Yeah, seriously,
It happens.
I can imagine.
Can't even imagine. All right, well, let's get into Ghost of Tsushima. This game was released, I believe, on July 17th in the year 2020.
Oh,
It's been that long. And let's just for a little backstory, Dax and I would tease Dax incessantly because he bought a PlayStation 4 and literally never played it. He would start every game, never finish it, even though he loved them like Spider-Man and God of War, only to return to bullshit like World of Warcraft and For Honor all the time.
For Honor, no joke. I am playing it more now than I played it when it launched and like 6 months after launch. It's 4 years in. I literally play that game so much. I should be better than I am. I play it maybe 2-3 hours a night. It's ridiculous.
I was just joking.
It's like
No
my
judgment.
game.
It's a cool
my
game.
It goes in here. I don't know why. It's just.
But we did have a bet, and it was around, who would finish the game first. I think it was for pizza and wings was the bet.
It was a gentleman's bet at Hank's. We kind of were having a fun night, and I believe you said.
First of all, I said you're not allowed to play this game. I forbid you from
right
to try to
because I hadn't beat any like the previous games you mentioned. They're still sitting on my machine unfinished, and I said no, I'm finishing this one because it's basically like Samurais and Assassin's Creed. Like, I'm going to finish it. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And then I've probably
like, I don't want to get into spoiler stuff, but sorry, what did you Assassin's Creed and what did you mash it up with?
No, I just said it's Samurai.
Oh, yeah,
Assassin's Creed.
I would agree. Specifically, it's Samurai meets Assassin's Creed 2, but we'll get into that later. And, we had a little war going on over the weekend at midnight, right when the game launched.
Yeah, we both started at the same time. Yeah,
an absolutely huge lead.
I
was conceding. Basically, I took 4 hours out of my Saturday evening to do a Kiss Love Gun puzzle. I was done. I listened to Love Gun 6 times and did a puzzle. I was like, Dax is one. I'm going to owe him pizza and wings, whatever. And then Monday came around and I just dominated you. I plowed through the entire game. I think I put in 16 hours that day. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think it had something to do with Monday being a work day. I don't know if any of you guys know about that, but Mondays are usually days where you have to do your job. And then this guy goes, we had a bit of a rage comment about this. So it was so, what did the term I call you, Frank? Or I said, I got mad at you and I called you out on something. I said, it was about your gamer cred. You had to beat me. It was like
a bragger to champion.
Yeah, like he literally spent 16 hours straight, guys.
Legend.
Just plowing through the story, not doing all the side stuff, just going like story to beat me. He knew he got a taste of fear, and he just said, I have to beat him. And he literally spent 16 hours straight. I'm like, well, you know what? Good for you. You
just so like
16 hours and beat me.
Our original bet had nothing to do with exploring the whole map. I offered you to do platinum trophy version. Thank God.
Well, I didn't want to do that one. No, I wasn't going to do that one.
And then, well, let me just finish this up quickly. Sorry, I know it's a bit of a story, but it has to be talked about. It demands.
It was a big deal.
And just to be safe, I made sure I had every other trophy you had on top of the story ones. In case you had done more exploration, your trophy set was a complete subset of mine at the time of completion.
I remember you saying that,
yeah. Just to be fair. Just wanted
just to be fair. No, for sure. It was more, I was more butthurt about the fact that we were having a friendly back and forth and like, oh yeah, like I'd spent like 4 extra hours in you on the Saturday or something. That's how I got ahead. And you're like, oh, I was doing kiss. I'm like, well, too bad, bud. Stop doing kiss puzzles. And then you literally, to shove my nose in it, you spend 16 hours straight the next day to finish it.
Anyway, I won. It was amazing. The pizza and wings
were very good.
It might have been the best pizza and wings I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, that was a good night. Yeah.
How'd you feel after those 16 hours?
Oh, fantastic. I was like, this thing's done. Although I did continue to platinum it for the next week, which was not as great feeling. We can talk about that in a bit. But I've been done for a while. We did revisit a bit last night, Dax and I, for some multiplayer, but where are you guys at with the game? Scott and Andrew.
Andrew, go ahead. You've probably got more to say than I do.
Okay, well, I have finished the story, and I've done very few of the side quests. So I actually took a note down, and it says in like my book or whatever, the menu, it says I have 26 of the like Tales of Tsushima quests available. I did 3 of them. So I believe that's the like secondary quests. And then the Mythic Tales, which I believe are the kind of like extra ones, I have 6 of those available and I only did 1. So I did very little to none of the side quests and basically just the main story.
Yeah, so I didn't have much up until about a week ago, and then I really kind of plugged in. But I just realized when I started going into the game that I bet you I'm lucky if I'm halfway there. So I couldn't even tell you. And I did what Huck kind of suggested to do and stuck with kind of the main quest. And I still think I'm only about halfway. Okay. Maximum.
I would say, I suggested that to Huck, and if anyone's about to play this game and doesn't care about trophies and 100% completion, stuff like that, I highly recommend focusing on the story. We'll get into that in much more detail, but if you're wondering what to do, you're like, I don't want to listen to this yet, play the story first exclusively, I would say. But I've talked about this a bit on the podcast before, and I think Huck has to some degree. So why don't we talk to some of our guests and get their overall thoughts on the game? Maybe we'll start with Scott because he's played less, and then get to Dax after that.
Yeah, so I remember, and I think I said this during the Last of Us podcast there. I struggled getting into the game right away because I literally, the day after I completed The Last of Us 2, jumped into Ghost. And it was hard to compare the two because I found The Last of Us 2 to be so engrossing. Graphics were fantastic. Story was, I would still say, pretty unbeatable for stories and how the events unfold. So it took me some time to get into it. But jumping back into it in the last week or so, kind of hammered home when you do simplify the game a little bit and you take away some of the repetitive nature of it, it is still a pretty solid game. It's still very nice to look at. Like, I still am in awe sometimes when you're going through some of those fields and in the trees with the falling leaves, and some of those are probably some of the best images you're going to see in games, I think personally. So I've really enjoyed the last week, but I also got kind of a little bit more into the heart of the game. Initially it was repetitive, but I was also putting it up against Last of Us 2, so I'm also distant from that game. So it's gone up a lot in my book in the last little while, and I'm looking forward to continuing it.
Cool.
Sweet.
Dax?
Yeah, I kind of wish I was back there with you, Scott, because I really enjoyed the story on the playthrough. I like how it kind of built on itself, and it gets really crazy. I mean, I found myself kind of invested in it, actually, even though I will say, my review is going to kind of be an up and down thing, because there was so much, that was like my experience with the game. It's like mind-blowing stuff happening, and you're just like, this is the greatest. I remember talking on the phone with Frank for the first night, 2 nights actually, we were just like, this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. And then some of the repetition kicked in, and it was like, okay, well, you know, but I was still in love with it, because I love, as Frank knows, I love games with cinematic executions and Assassin's Creed type stuff, stealth play, all that kind of thing. I love it. So I kind of pushed through where Frank got a little bit more annoyed. But I feel like visually, the first thing about this game, it's the most beautiful game I've ever seen. Like, I just think it's, I mean, granted, PS4 has a lot of those games. And I remember Frank saying that you like that robot dinosaur game, whatever that one was.
They're not dinosaurs. They're everyone calls them dinosaurs.
They look like dinosaurs. Anyway, whatever that game was. I mean, I know there's a lot of good-looking games on PS4
here, but they're mechanical animals.
But for me, this is my first real experience with like a super wicked, I don't know if anything's been done close to it, but like natural environment, the world building in this, like I just played again today and yesterday. I just jumped in and finished all the red quests, like liberating everything today, just to kind of wrap that up. But just, you never feel like you're riding through the same section of the game ever. And it's huge. Like, it is massive and it's beautiful, and I just can't get over it. The combat, I feel, is really, really good, but then there's like a flip of where it gets really annoying, and I think it comes into some of the stuff where Frank's going to talk more about design and things like that. No lock on camera is a big one for me, because I'm used to strafing cameras, and I'm sure you guys are too, where like if you're doing a melee combat game, you can click on a guy, thumbstick a guy, and then rotate around him or her. Whereas in this one, so many times you're like getting surrounded by people, and if they're not in your camera and they do their little glinting blue attack, you get hit with it. If you can't see, you have to constantly be spinning your camera around to see everything around you. Things like that were kind of annoying for me. But on a broad scale, loved it. I love the story. I love anything to do with getting like armor sets and the way you look, changing all that stuff up was right up my alley. Not a fan of haikus, not a fan of a lot of the side questing stuff. Yeah. And I would say my biggest gripe with it is just really the fact that how closely it follows to Japanese storytelling, which is like a positive and a negative sometimes for me, because with my short memories, you know, or short attention span, sometimes Japanese storytelling gets a bit long in the tooth for me. Anime does that too, where it's just like they'll spend an hour on one shot talking with like, you know, and the story in this game is quite long-winded sometimes. But all the set pieces make up for it, in my opinion. It was a lot of fun.
For me, I actually had a really low expectation going into this game as the patented infamous hater on the podcast. And I'd never really been super impressed with Sucker Punch games in general. Or wait, no, who is this, Sucker Punch?
I think so.
Yeah. Tell me you hate him so much.
But I was actually really, really impressed with this game. I thought the tech was incredible. Like Scott and Dax were saying, the game looks really good. The character models are great. Combat's good. The movement mechanics, the horse and, you know, stealth and running all work really well. And yeah, set piece moments, really impressive. And I came away really impressed. Now, obviously, like everyone else was saying, the length does get onto it, and I didn't even do any of the side quests. And every side quest I did seemed like just this huge go from point A to point B to point C to point D exploration with nothing really unique to it. Of the ones I did, obviously I didn't do that many, but I'm sure they were all the same. And there's just so many collectibles and stuff around that that part did kind of slow down near the end. But overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I liked the game. At first, I was absolutely loving it, and I'm kind of different than Dax. I'll have to get Scott's take on this, but my favorite thing about this were the things that made it unique: haikus, bamboos, like just the collectibles and how it's integrated into the world. That was my favorite stuff in the game. The wind mechanic, I'll be honest, I was expecting big things from it, but ultimately I think I would have rather just had a marker on a map. Swiping up on the D-pad was not that responsive, and I didn't like that I had to swipe up. Even pressing it, I would have preferred. I found swiping on the D-pad annoying for the most part. So I much rather would have had a mini map that just showed me where to go. To be perfect.
Could I comment on that for a second?
Yep.
What I really liked about the wind mechanic is that I wasn't looking at a mini map, so I wasn't like staring in the corner of the screen. My eyes were always on the screen, looking at the art, looking at the environments, and like it worked pretty well. Like occasionally it wouldn't respond, but if you go off the path like a little bit because it didn't respond the first time, it's not a big deal. It's not like you need to go around a river or something to get back around. Like, it'd be like maybe an extra 3 seconds or something. So I don't think you ever really lost too much time when the wind didn't respond to you. And I think by having that visual aspect of the game where you can see the environments and actually appreciate all the artwork that went into this game, I think it makes a big difference. And I think it was a really good choice to not have a mini map.
Well, here's the thing. I wasn't necessarily looking for the wind, or when you would use the mini map, you'd get indicators in the environment, like which way you should be going, which to me is all I want. All I would do was hit the wind up. I wasn't actually looking at the wind. I could care less about the wind for the most part. I'm just looking top left corner, tell me what my objectives are, and give me an indicator generally on the screen where I should be going, which still allows me to see everything in the game and appreciate the artwork. So give me a way to just turn that on. Like, I don't want to have to swipe up on this thing every time. And the mission design, that definitely becomes a factor for me because, first of all, the encampments just get bigger and bigger. And my ultimate problem with this game is repetition, mission design, and within the combat system, when you're clearing out encampments or whatever they are, it's just frustrating at times, especially when they're large encampments and you're looking for one enemy and you can't find them. And there's a mechanic to try to draw out the last enemies, which really doesn't work that well, to be perfectly honest. And I'm doing the same thing over and over again. And then I'm getting to a point where I'm just running around looking for a last enemy to kill. And it's not that exciting to me. And on top of that, it does not encourage stealth gameplay because the odds of you being seen are very high. It's close to impossible, I would say. I'm sure people will argue with me, to take out an entire encampment without being seen. The enemies are spaced so close together, and it just, stealth never seemed like a valid option to me. Now, preface all of this by saying I had just spent months playing Sekiro, which is the best combat stealth game I've ever played in my life. And it also takes place in like a Japanese setting and using samurai skills and stuff like that. And it just blows this game out of the water, straight up. But it blows every game out of the water, so I can live with that. But I was never motivated to use stealth or a lot of the like grappling and locomotion mechanics in this game, which is weird to me because, as I've said ad nauseum, Infamous Second Son and Infamous First Light have the best open world locomotion of any game I've played in my life. And it's the way it's integrated into level exploration for getting shards in the air and using combinations of dashes and jumps, is the most rewarding locomotion that's ever been committed to a video game console. Anyway, that's a personal opinion, but I was let down by the locomotion in this game. Combat was good. I would not say it's great. It might have been great if it wasn't for the how much of it I had to do. I was getting kind of echoes of Spider-Man with the crime missions throughout the city, where it's the same thing over and over again. The part of that is my fault, and if you weren't doing everything in the game or trying to 100% it, maybe I wouldn't have cared as much. But my other biggest complaint design-wise are some of the risk reward mechanics in the game, specifically the ghost mode, when there's a meter for getting consecutive kills without taking damage. And I found that so frustrating, as it was an instant drain, and mostly when you got hit by an enemy arrow. Now the enemy aiming is done, and the cues are all done through audio, so you have to hear them say we're about to fire, which for the most part I initially I thought was an interesting take. But my biggest problem design wise with that is when there's only 2 enemies left, like whatever their squad programming is for when to attack, if there's only 1 or 2 enemies left and one of them is an archer, they just fire every second. They just don't stop. They're Legolas all of a sudden. They can pull out arrows like they're the greatest archer of all time. And I just kept dodging arrows constantly. I know you can upgrade to get a block to block arrows, but I found that pretty frustrating. And in general, I think there's too many archer enemies that hinder my ability to use the ghost. Like that's what it's called, right?
Yeah, I have that on my list too, dude. It's when you get to the end of the game, or at certain progress in the game where you get the ghost mode, and it's basically like turns you into Super Samurai for a bit. The fact that any damage you take depletes the entire thing is, and it takes like 5 to 10 kills or whatever to get this thing leveled up without being touched. And then you're in a fight with, say, 5 dudes, all like attacking you with this weird camera that you're trying to figure out. For the most part, it works. And all of a sudden, an arrow goes and it hits you in the back of the head, and you lose your entire thing. It's like he was way off to the outside of the circle, and he's still shooting at you, and you have no way of being able to dodge that kind of stuff.
And to add to that, the actual stealth, like the stealth is okay, but there's techniques for putting smoke bombs and stuff like that, and it is not responsive. The amount of times, like when I'm in that smoke, you also have to be like facing them perfectly. Like I should be able to queue up squares to do stealth kills when I've used that power. And there would be so many times the square would show up for a half a second, and then I'd press it, and by the time I went to do it, I'm doing some sword swipe, and now I've lost my chance at an instant kill, which was the whole reason I dropped the stealth bomb to begin with. So huge, like I don't want to say minor. They're not. They're flaws in terms of motivating me to use the mechanics that are established, because the result of using them is not predictable the way it should be. Anyway, that's my biggest problem with the game. Some of that stuff, really, I just ended up doing the brunt version of combat almost all the time. But I really skipped my original question, so I kind of deep dove on some of the design ideas. But it was to Scott and what he thought of haikus and bamboos, like the actual aesthetics of like incorporating real Japanese culture stuff into the mini games or collectibles and stuff like that. What did you think?
I mean, I think you gotta agree that this is a love letter to Japan by people that love everything in the past. And I mean, the main thing that really shows that off is the Kurosawa mode. So
I was definitely going to ask you about that.
Right. And now I'll tell you, I haven't tried it yet, but I mean,
is that the black and white mode?
Yeah. So, I mean, but Kurosawa is how I got into Japan and how I started learning about Japanese culture. And I'm by no means an expert here, and you know, I'd be lacking a lot of information, but that's what got me into it in the first place. So, I mean, you are seeing a game that is probably trying to overload and cram it down your throat a little bit, but it definitely is a love letter. Everything from the visuals to the castles to, like, you'll see some of that stuff. You'll see some of that stuff in Japan when you do go to kind of some of the older areas. So I mean, they're basing it off of obvious real life places or pictures or images, whatever it is. Yeah, I'm okay with quiet moments in games, like the haiku thing. Took me a while though, because like I don't know anything about that. I'm sitting there waiting for something to happen, of course, because it's an action game. When the haiku first came up, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I didn't even know. Finally I moved the pad and it X's up or whatever, and then away I go. But yeah, I didn't mind it. I'm okay with that.
Oh, it was I loved the bamboo mini game, the consecutive button press.
Man, that just shows me how bad I am at video games. Like, I don't have the ability to be like mash and be okay. Like, it's not going to happen. I'll get maybe 2 down and then I'm done.
You must have loved it because you were amazing at the pull-up challenge in Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's basically an easier version of that. You must have just crushed those.
The like 3 I found.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I wasn't too bad at those. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought those unique elements were the best thing in the game to me by far, and just the aesthetic, the overall aesthetic of the game, the world. Talking about Kurosawa mode being in black and white, I did not want to play in black and white because I just love the color in this game. Every area was so unique visually, which you've all touched on already, and I thought the most impressive area to me visually in the game was like the flatland marsh, which kind of came out of nowhere because everything else up until that point was, extremely hilly. And I'm assuming, using high ground and other aspects to hide loading and, keep the memory footprint reasonable. And then you get into this drastically different area that's all flat with these puddles, reflective puddles, and like the color, like being more, grays and browns. And I don't know, I just loved it. Visually, the game is amazing. And while I'm on that topic, I'm going to say more impressive to me than, or equally as impressive as the visuals, is the fast travel, because it looks amazing, but they've definitely made concessions. I think I haven't analyzed it that closely to terrain. I don't think their terrain is that complicated in terms of polys, and like their textures aren't super crazy. I don't think. I don't want to say for sure off the top of my head, but they can load in levels so fast. And like I was traveling across the map. It's not like they were reusing all the same assets. Like I could not, and I think part of it is the camera positions they choose by default at each of the fast travel locations, where it's kind of looking into the sky a lot of the time and stuff that's would be easy to load. But that fast travel is the fastest loading, most convenient fast travel I've ever played in a video game in my life. And I loved it.
I was going to bring that up.
He did mention that a lot during the Pizza and Wings victory tour.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It really is like a technical feat, because there is like, this is an open world game. You could basically go anywhere. And like Frank was saying, you could be going from one area to another that share no assets, and somehow they've still been able to, do it quickly. So I don't even know, like, obviously it's a custom engine and they've put a lot of effort into making sure that everything loads. They've obviously
I know Infamous was known for like their kind of hexagonal system and stuff like that. I don't know if they've adapted that in some way to
maybe, but there's no real like super tall buildings that block large vistas. I mean, there is some mountainous regions that sort of block your view, but overall, I mean, you could be dropped into a middle of a field and all there is some trees blocking your view for like a little bit of the area. And there's rocks, there's trees, there's grass, there's animals, there's a lot of stuff to load in. I'm assuming they probably like back end load all the animals, all the dynamic stuff, and then they'll bring in like the initial terrain and the trees. But it's so impressive. I was going to bring that up. Like, I don't even know how they're doing it so quickly. Mm-hmm. And then you imagine this thing running on the PS5, and it's going to be instant. Like, you're not going to have any loading screens for anywhere. It's going to be crazy.
Now, is it a curse that you guys have all this extra video game knowledge? Like, I don't know half the crap you're talking about, and I'm kind of thankful that I don't. Like, you just kind of
Wow.
enjoy it for what it is. Like, sometimes you must look at something and be like, oh, like I have no idea what you're looking at.
I don't
You know
know.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not quite to that level. Huck's probably way more into that than I am. I'm pretty good at detaching from, the technical
Seeing the
aspects of the
seams or
game.
whatever. Yeah.
Artists are really like they're looking at every scene and breaking down the maps and lighting and all that stuff. Where
Yeah.
I don't think about that stuff really. This was just the one case where I was like, just compared to every other open world game I've played, it's like this is ridiculous. I'm the first time I loaded, I'm like, I thought, did I move like 2 feet and I didn't even realize it on the map, or like was my scale calibration of the map incorrect? And then I picked a place really far away, and I was like, no, this is the best loading of any game I've ever played in my life. And I haven't read every review of this game or seen every review, but I don't see a lot of people talking about that. And it's amazing. It should be applauded. There should be a new Gamer Convenience Award at the Video Game Awards this year, and Ghost of Tsushima should win. But just phenomenal.
Let's talk about standoffs. Who's
Okay.
yay and who's nay on standoffs?
I like them.
I am yay.
Yeah, I like them too.
Yeah, they're great. I really love them, but it's like this game does this for me, right? It's like when you do it, it feels great. When you screw it up, most annoying thing in the world, right? And a lot of it,
I like it. It's a good risk reward mechanic.
It is, but at the same, there's certain, like I was playing again today, and in the deeper, near the end of the game, where the Mongols are really strong and they got the big shield guys with the big swords and stuff like that. Every time I get a standoff now and I see them, I'm like, oh no, if that guy's walking towards me, I'm like, shit, because I think I'm over against those guys. Like, they're so fast. Like, this big guy with this big shield, and he just kind of, and in between the pump fakes that they do, oh my god.
I mean, I haven't played Animal Crossing in a long time, so I don't know if this is the way. It's basically fishing in Animal Crossing. It's these little nibbles, and you have to wait for the perfect nibble to do it. I don't know which came first. If I'm assuming this has been in many Animal Crossing games before, but they hijacked the Animal Crossing fishing, I think, and it works fantastically.
I do like that, like how badass it makes you feel when you actually land it properly. But I did have this is once again another technical thing that sometimes screws it up with the camera, that takes it out of your control. So like, say when you get near the end of the game, I think you're doing like 5. You can get 5 kills, instant kills, if you time it properly. So by the 4th or 5th one, the camera kind of tracks who's coming towards you. But sometimes you actually have to turn the camera so you, like, who's going to come at me. So by the 4th or 5th guy, there's a body falling in front of the path of the guy who's coming at you next. So you have to be able to time, or you're supposed to base it off the cue of him doing a move with his sword, so then you hit him back, right? But if he's being blocked by this other character that's falling over, the amount of times it's been ruined on me because that guy is attacking while that guy's passing in front of the camera.
Yeah, I found it pretty forgiving.
Straight rage.
Aside
Straight
from
rage.
like the first hit, definitely, I fucked up a lot of times, but
yeah, after that,
it was
bad.
pretty hard to fuck up.
I find it. I was just gonna say, I find it got progressively more frustrating as the game went on. Not really because, I mean, the difficulty did ramp up, and I was okay with that. That made sense. But the fact that you lose your entire health bar, and obviously, like at the beginning, you use 3, no big deal. The enemies aren't that tough. But at the end, when you lose like 8 or 10, or however many you have, and then you got to try to recoup it. I mean, that's a lot of effort to try to regain all that. And I felt that was quite the punishment for missing. Now, maybe that is because the enemies are stronger. That's their justification. But I did find that was more frustrated. I got more frustrated as the game went on, missing those.
So I started to, like tonight, when I was playing today, I got to the point now where when you get near the end of the game, you start to get the ghost power really fast, and you've got a lot of those yellow power bar dots, right? Mm-hmm. So if I had my ghost on and the standoff came, I would just not do the standoff, and I would just get off my horse and use it so that I didn't lose it. You know what I mean? Like in case I screwed up the standoff. I didn't want to lose all my stuff, so I would just go in and wreck them with my normal abilities. It was more fun that
I
way.
mean, as a designer, everything you're saying is making me think awesome design. If it's making you think about what you want to do before you do it, like strategic, meaningful play, well done. Anyway, that's my take.
How did everybody find the difficulty level of it overall?
At first, I was struggling quite a bit, just because I think it was such a different game than Sekiro, and I was trying to, and Last of Us, like I was adapting to this new version of combat. Obviously, as you get more, why can't I think of what the circles are called?
Yeah, it's like chi or something. I don't know. Like I
Yeah,
can't
like
remember.
the stamina bar kind of thing.
No, it's for your special powers, the yellow orbs,
Gold balls.
the gold balls.
Oh,
Yeah, the gold ball.
Sure.
The gold balls above your health bar.
Once I had a lot of those, it got easier for me, I would say in general. But just tying into that one, when you were talking about I talked about it too, the ghost mechanic and the standoff. I actually think the mods are pretty interesting. Like you could tweak your mods and your armor sets so that, it only took 3 to do that. If you liked that power more than other ones, you could really customize your armor sets and weapons and mods to use the powers you like the most. So, I mean, I harped on this a lot on Control, which felt like the most useless mod system I've ever played in a video game. So this wasn't amazing by any means, but it did have some meaning in terms of customizing your playstyle. Still not phenomenal or anything like that. Sorry, somebody else.
What were we saying? What were we talking?
Well,
The difficulty. I feel like in the beginning because most of the games I play are this style, so Assassin's Creed, so it wasn't much of a learning curve for me when it came to the combat. I liked how smooth the combat is. Let's do some animation talk. I thought the animations were really, really good. The combat animations flow really, really well. I just love watching like the final kit, like just doing regular attack button combos. When you actually kill the guy, it feels really impactful, and there's like multiple animations for that just seamlessly kind of flow together, so you're not doing the same one twice. I did find that the actual difficulty of it ramps pretty hard, but I mean most of these games do that, like your Assassin's Creeds and all that kind of stuff, where like once you get into the big guys, you really have to fight them in a certain way and kind of almost pull them out of the pack to fight them properly and stuff. And it kind of, I'm sure like anyone else, I love the feeling of just being like a supreme all-star, feeling like you're that super assassin or you're that. So anytime you can dispatch like 6 people before anything happens, that's like, I get the kick out of that. So once it gets more into the end game, there's less of that, obviously, because you've got 6 guys with giant shields and 2 spearmen and flaming arrow guys coming at you. So, it's not as forgiving, but so there's definitely a steep kind of ramp up there by around the second half. Yeah, I still love it though. I still think it's good. And actually, I didn't finish it. Obviously, I finished the story about, I think, a day after Frank or something like that. After he finished, I kind of took the pressure off and just kind of did the story. And I've still left it. I mean, I did finish it, so technically this is the first game on PS4 I finished. But I still have all those side quests, like you guys said.
You finished it. It's good.
Yeah, half of the stories. I never got that fire on your sword ability because I thought it was stupid. I just didn't want to bother to do that. Yeah. So
on the difficulty for me, I found that it did ramp up, but as it ramped up, I found I started to use the like secondary abilities a lot more, like those throwing knives and the bombs and the there was like an exploding bomb and there was another type of bomb or something that you could use. And I found I started using those a lot and found myself like running to areas so I could replenish that stuff to take advantage of it in battles. And I felt like if they did not have that, if they just had the regular combat, it would be way, way too difficult. Because I used those explosion bombs a lot as like basically like crowd control, where I'd throw them into a group. So I'd take out like 3 or 4 guys at a time. And I thought that was a really good use of those mechanics. I also upgraded those almost exclusively instead of any of my other stuff. So I didn't really upgrade my stances or I don't know. I didn't do much with the equipment either. I found I just didn't have the resources to
There is a
upgrade.
lot of upgrading in this game. Like
Yeah.
there's like a lot of things that you can spend points on in this game for sure.
Yeah, so I basically upgraded like the main stance I used all the time, which I guess was the default one, and then most of my equipment or the secondary equipment, and that was really it. And I couldn't find enough stuff or get enough points to upgrade the other stuff. And so in that regard, like, I did play the whole game, technically, all the story, and I maybe unlocked half of the skill tree, which is kind of strange to me that I have to basically do every single side quest in order to get enough resources to unlock the whole skill tree. I don't understand what the point is necessarily of only unlocking the whole skill tree once you're done the game. Like, Dax, like what you were saying, where you want to be badass, like why wouldn't you want to be badass like closer to the end, or at least like maybe only have to do half the side quests or a quarter of the side quests before you basically become badass. I know like that sort of negates some of the purpose of the side quests to get things, but I mean, what's the point of having all these things that most people aren't going to see? Like they put all this time. Go ahead.
Is that the idea of the Kurosawa mode, almost like the game's played twice in two separate visual ways? I don't know. Like I don't think that would. Yeah, I don't know. Like I agree with you. I like being invincible. Let's say a quarter into the game, so that you have the 75% that you can just wreck through it. But maybe the whole point is, hey, play it in another mode with the New Game Plus, and I don't know.
Maybe. Well, I would say that's a bit of a stretch from a design.
When you 100% the game, you literally get everything. Everything's leveled up. You're good to go. You don't need like Last of Us is one of the few games where you cannot upgrade everything in your skill trees in one playthrough. Excuse me. It has to be multiple playthroughs. So in this game, you 100% the game, do every side mission, which I do not recommend. It is extremely annoying. You can get everything. But while I'm there, let's talk about that. Like the missions are so boring. And especially when you get into the side missions, defeat enemies, follow a trail, defeat enemies, occasionally follow a person for a bit on like either in stealth mode or following them on a horse. Like it is literally what I said at the beginning. It's Assassin's Creed 2 level missions, which is a game that's, I don't know, 12 years old, something like that. Like it is really hurting when it comes to mission variety, interesting things. The only thing I will give the game is the main story missions, like the structure and the breaks. And we'll talk about duels. We haven't talked about duels yet. But those modes and like the epic feel of the story missions are great. Like
the story's awesome.
Story missions are phenomenal. And doing all that stuff in side missions and like the encampments and stuff like that, just it gets so boring. I was so done with that stuff.
That's pretty par for the course for those, right? Like Far Cries and all that. It's kind of very similar. Like it's just nothing new, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I separate games. Like I know Sekiro for sure, but I mean, Sekiro, I'm replaying the same areas over and over again, and I never get sick of them. Like the combat is that strong. Even Batman, the Arkham series to some degree, I never get sick of the combat in those games. And each one, like there's so much variety and like it's so strong, those mechanics, that I never get sick of it. And I'll say Horizon as well, because there's so much variety in terms of the different creatures and how you take them down, different approaches, weaknesses, weapons, that, there's always stuff to try and different ways to approach things. The enemies in this game are all the same. Archers, and the only difference is switching the stance between the four stances, whether you're fighting dual swords, sword, spear, or shielded enemies, which, I mean, that makes it a little more interesting, but I get it after 20 hours, and when I'm doing the next 20 hours, I'm like, I need some other stuff to do. This is the same shit over and over again. But overall, my complaint is the same as every game I've played over the last few years, including Last of Us 2. These games are too big and too long. This value proposition for games is getting unbearable. And if you don't care about doing 100% in the game, who cares? It's fine. I'm sure they're not considering obsessive compulsive people like me when they're designing these games. But to be fair, Last of Us 2, the actual story for an average player is way too long, in my opinion. But I feel like this game world is too big. Spider-Man was a perfect size for me.
So I agree with you, Frank. I feel like back in the day, I would have been, no, give me a long, super long game with so much to do that I never run out of things to do. But I'm finding that my game tastes have gone in a different direction over the past 15 years or so, 10, 15 years. I prefer the more, like, give me a shorter story, but like if there's something about a game that I like, usually the combat, I prefer things like horde modes where you can just dive in and do just that. You know what I mean? Like I remember that Matrix game that came out, the Matrix. I love that game. The one where you
Enter the
everyone
Matrix.
hated. Yeah. I love that game. But it was the combat, right? Like I like the combat of it, the animations and stuff. There was basically like a not a hidden, but like a training level where you could just do waves upon waves upon waves, and it was like a 5%er thing in the game, like back in the ship, and you would just do that. I did that for hours.
You
right?
are the biggest Matrix fan I know, though,
It's true.
including
It's true.
Sean Dwyer.
But and then so for a perfect example of that is For Honor. I love combat, and it's literally a game where you get 4 people against 4 people, and you just go fight in a medieval style in a map. That's my kind of my meat and potatoes right now for games. So yeah, I agree with game. Like this game especially felt really long. Like I said, with like all the, especially like every time you ride up and somebody's got like the question mark above their head and you talk to them, there's a little cinematic for every single one of them, like a little dialogue sequence, and it's just like, oh, like I get it, you know what I mean? Like it's to make it feel like a film and stuff, but it's just there's a lot, like to the point where I was like, I'm not going to stop to talk to this peasant. I'm gotta go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I tell myself I need all the open world games, and then I never finish a single one of them.
Yeah.
And they always stay areas untouched, whatever. And then when I play like a streamlined game, like, or I guess streamlined, I don't know if that's the right word, but like an Uncharted or like a Last of Us, that it kind of holds your hand a little bit. That's what I enjoy now. You know, just kind of allowing it to hold my hand a little bit and lead me in the right direction. Instead of this open-ended game, because I always thought to myself, I'm like, oh, there's always going to be some new place or new enemy or new whatever, and then I don't even get there. So that's on me.
I feel you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely different playstyle preferences. I'm starting to appreciate open world design a bit more, especially relating to Breath of the Wild, but it still has its frustrations. And yeah, I've always liked a curated design experience. I want the designers to tell me what's fun about their game, not to let me find out what's fun about the game. But I mentioned this before. We haven't talked about the duels, which are kind of like the major fights, which the camera perspective changes to be more of like a almost fighting game style.
Almost like a boss.
Yeah. And yeah, it mostly is for bosses. And then there's definitely some side missions that are these kind of highly cinematic locations for duels, which I thought were pretty cool. Overall, the duel mechanic, I liked it. I liked the change up to gameplay, but they were a little too hard in my opinion. I found one mistake, I was having to restart it over and over again.
Well, you were having a problem. I remember when we had our first discussion about partway through, you still weren't done, and you hadn't figured out, or you hadn't bought the ability or something for parrying certain attacks or something. You were getting mad. I think we were on the phone and you were getting real mad.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly what it was. I saw a thing in the skill tree to allow you to be able to block or parry javelin attacks.
The blue color. Yeah.
So I assumed I didn't have that. So the first time I did a duel and they were doing blue attacks, I was dodging because I thought I had to, and I didn't. But it's just all of a sudden it became a different game where you have all these hordes of enemies, and like I have decisions as to when to resolve is the meter I was talking about before, when to use that stuff, and then I would get into those, and I would just found like they were a little too punishing, and it became, a God of War Valkyrie boss or like a Dark Souls game briefly in terms of difficulty level. And I'm glad they're there. Don't get me wrong, but I think they could have been a little easier.
Were any of you bad enough to die so many times that you had the prompt at the bottom of the screen that
Oh,
said,
Oh yeah.
Go to a lower difficulty.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was tempted.
I probably would have been, except Dax and I's bet was we had to do it at a certain difficulty.
Fair enough.
Yeah, we said we had to do it on normal
Yeah.
mode or whatever. Yeah.
Thank God. If I would have hard difficulty, I don't know what I would have done with this game.
Yeah.
Is that a cafeteria cup?
No,
It looks like a mother's pizza.
Yeah,
cup.
it looks like one of those old cafeteria cups.
I love it.
Pick it up out of the thing, go fill your fountain pop. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. Believe me, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
I really like the duels, actually. I thought they were challenging, but I appreciated that sort of like one-on-one, super difficult boss fight aspect to it that it brought to it. And it was a really nice change of pace for me over just that, like you were saying, Frank, with the waves of enemies and just, the one slice or a couple slice kills. This was more of a challenge. It was more of a puzzle. You had to really like pay attention to what was happening, and really like some of them were so fast that I don't think you could beat them on the first couple times. Like I think it is meant to take you a few times, almost like a Mega Man level, where you need to almost memorize it before you can beat it. And I never did the easy either. I don't know what they would have changed if they just would have made like the animation slower or the damage less. I'm not sure exactly how they would have made it easier, but I did appreciate the challenge of those going through the game.
That's like kind of the epitome of samurai films if you watch them. There's a lot of samurai films that have that kind of boss-like fight that slows everything down. There's nobody else around. The two guys just duel it out like that. That I kind of enjoyed the cinematic aspect to it. The music and everything was, that first one I remember was quite visually nice to look at too.
Yeah, no, I loved it too. I loved the duels as well. I remember telling Frank this the first couple days in, how sad. I just gotten that double button ability when you use your resolve to do like the super samurai dash, where you just kind of slice through guys. And
I think I got that.
No, it's you have to. It's like the basic one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like this. It takes two of your balls to do it, two yellow balls, and you do like just like a dash attack, and but I was really excited when I figured this out during a duel, because I think you get it from your first duel, and then the next duel, I had it, and I noticed that if you did it, you could do it just standing there, and it would basically break their defense, and it would like make them fly up, and then you could attack them. But if you attack them and you break their defense on your own, and then you do that the super move, it takes off like a huge chunk of damage. So it was kind of cool being, like Frank said, like you decide how you want to do it. Like if you can use it in a pinch to break the defense and then do damage, or do more damage by breaking it first. And it was cool. I liked it a lot. I liked the duels quite a bit, actually.
I also only found that there was like, I think one that I was able to almost like, cheese out and like take advantage of a hole I found in the AI and beat it easily. I think there was only one of those. So I was actually pretty impressed overall with how they were done in general.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have those gates too, right? Where no matter how much damage you've done, and I don't love this, but if you were to get it to a third or whatever, it would reset. And if you waste, that's why when you waste certain meters to get it down a third, now you've kind of pooched yourself for the entire.
By meters, do you mean like where it does the cinematic like parry scene where they go, ah?
Yeah, and it's broken up into thirds and stuff like that.
Right.
Like
Okay.
thirds or fourths, I can't remember. I did like the final boss though. I won't get into story stuff too much, but after the duel, it went to like fighting that boss in a regular third person mode, which I thought was kind of interesting and a different way of changing it up a bit at the end.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that one, I was actually quite proud of myself because I finished that I did it first try and killed him in that third person fight.
Mhm.
But it was a case where you were able, this is the first time I felt like I could actually cheese the system where like I just ran and ran and ran until my health things built back up. Because like it was one of those things like Huck says where like you get hit once and all of a sudden, you really have to be careful. And then there's archers still shooting at you and stuff like that. So I remember I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to do all of this again. I don't want to fight him again. I have to beat him. So I literally ran around until one of my abilities would give me that little bit of health back, and then I'd fight him some more and just run around because it was a big ship you're on or something like that.
Yeah.
One more thing I forgot about the duel thing. I was getting annoyed with that because I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, in the cinematic that happens before every duel is that whole stare down thing where he does like the clicking of the sword and all that stuff, and it just feels like it takes forever to get into it.
That's samurai
I know
stuff for you. It's
I
like
know.
they slow it down to a crawl.
I know. And I'm
but
cool with that for the first one or first three, but then like when you're doing 10 of them, 15 of them throughout the game, you're just like, oh my God, like let's go here, boys.
Speaking of the slowdown, the fact that you cannot skip cinematics or dialogue is a huge detractor to this game. It could be probably 10 hours shorter if you were just able to skip some dialogue. Like even like stupid NPCs you talk to, they tell you nothing and they say it so slow and you cannot skip it. And it is probably the worst thing in this game, in my opinion.
It's a good point. My problems with getting 100% probably could have been halved if I just got to skip when they talk about the footprints I'm seeing this time. What are these footprints that I have to follow? What are these horse tracks that I'm following? Give me a break.
Here's a question. Who went the sacrilegious route and put on English dub?
Oh, I put on
English. I had all English dub. I had English all the way. You mean
my God.
you had Japanese
English
voice?
I had Japanese voice.
Oh, did you?
With subtitles. You had to have the experience. I'm assuming Scott did that too, right, bud?
Oh no, I was all English. I did back in
I thought you were the Japanese guru.
I also told myself I'd go back and do it like authentic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I will tell you why. When I played Sekiro, I did that all in Japanese with English subtitles. And it actually, like, when I would watch videos on how to do stuff, or like, my trophy guides, people can yell at me, I don't care. But they would always be in English. And I found like names and things in the game get reinforced more, like understand it, like just knowing who people are, what their names are, and the story. It was just, I would take it in easier than reading it on screen. I don't know why. I'm kind of the opposite well, not the opposite, but I love subtitles in movies and it helps me, but I think it's having the audio and the subtitles complement one another. But there was names of characters and stuff in Sekiro that I wasn't even like learning properly. And when I would watch videos in English, I'm like, I probably should have played in English, but my default would have been Japanese with English subtitles if I had not had that previous experience.
All right. Well, I thought that answer was going to be a lot more my side. Apparently, I'm the only one who didn't listen to it in English. I thought I'd do the authentic experience. Yeah.
Okay.
So has anybody done black and white yet?
No.
Not even tried.
I might do it, but isn't it the thing where you basically have to start over? It doesn't just kind of.
Yeah, it's just everything's black and white. Yeah.
But I'm going to say, but you can't just click it and it'll make my game now black and white. I would have to start at the beginning and go for like it's a fresh game, right?
I think it might just be a switch. Like literally, you just switch it.
I'll try that.
I thought I saw that the other day, actually.
I'm pretty sure it's a toggle at any point.
Okay.
It really feels like pandering, and I am not a fan of Kurosawa mode. I will not.
But if that were the game the whole way through, fair enough. Yep. But as just the flip a switch option, I think it's fantastic.
Well, I'm the opposite. I would have enjoyed it and applauded it if they would have made you play in Kurosawa mode. It's the fact that they want both, and it feels like a little like, attempt to go viral or have people talk about it. That's why I'm against it.
That's a Frank.
That's
one.
Sure.
anyone who knows me knows that.
Yeah, that's a
That's how
Frank
I'm going to come down on anything like that.
But I
If
will
it's
say,
that
I agree.
important, make your whole game like that.
But going back to what you said, Frank, just wanted to reiterate that I wouldn't want to play it in black and white for any experience length of time because the colors in this game are like ridiculous. Like it's so good. The fall colors, especially like when you're riding through and everything's red and bright oranges and yellows and the leaves and stuff. Like
Bamboo Forest, come on.
whew, yeah, like it is seriously the most
That
beautiful game I've seen.
that sun going down or coming up when you're going into it, like cutting through the forest and stuff, is beautiful.
Yeah.
Reminds me
And
of
the
one thing I did not like in the game. There's not a lot of it. The heat mechanic in the mountains when you all of a sudden have to get to a fire. Am I remembering this correctly, or am I confusing it with Zelda?
Yeah, I don't think that was in this game. I don't think so.
There's missions at the end where when you're at the very northern section, the northernmost you get, there you die if you don't get to a fire in time.
Really?
I think so.
That's definitely Zelda.
Is that when you're? No, I think that's.
Is he right?
Is that when you're like poisoned or something? And you're
Something
trying to
like
hide.
that, yeah.
You're trying to hide from the guys or something. You don't have any of your equipment. Is that part of the game?
I don't remember that.
Something like that. I know it came into play. Let's see. Hypothermia. Yeah, there's a hypothermia mechanic. I'm not crazy.
Yeah,
I might have played it 4 months ago, but I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I don't remember it.
I haven't gotten
for
there.
Scott right now. Yeah, we're spoiling for Scott.
Whatever. I won't remember anything anyways.
Hey, I did, and I don't remember it. So
yeah.
Oh, I like the shrines. I haven't talked about the shrines yet. Where oh no, maybe not shrines. The ones where they're basically locomotion puzzles.
Yeah.
Where you have to like kind of go up and around and use your grappling and climbing techniques to kind of solve locomotion puzzles. I thought those were really strong. All the side quest stuff in this game was my favorite. Like not side quest, pardon me. Collectible stuff I liked more than the main combat, which is very rare. All right. Anyone else have anything else to say about gameplay or design that would not be considered maybe story or spoiler?
I do.
Okay.
So I'll touch on. So I got a few things. I'll start with the tutorial. This was actually one of my favorite tutorials in a game I think I've ever played. It just walks you through everything so nicely. The story is interesting as you kind of walk through the initial town. Then you have like the flashbacks. You eventually get up to the castle and you're introduced to like the main bad guy and all that stuff. And there's like just enough collectibles there to sort of like tease you with what you're going to be doing in the game. You're introduced to all the mechanics at like a perfect pace. Everything is like reinforced as you go along. And I just thought it was really, really well done and really interesting. That first hour or 2 hours was just like kind of like a perfect slice. I was all in on this game, because not only are you seeing like the technical aspects, how good it looks, but then you're just introduced to the story and the mechanics, and it's just like such a good opening 2 hours. I was all in at that opening 2 hours, and it was only after, the next 10 or 15 where the game started to go downhill for me. And then going back to exploration in general, I really liked how you could just pick stuff up with not having to stop for it, especially on the horse.
Oh yeah.
It would have been so frustrating if you had to like stop.
Is awesome.
Yeah, if you had to stop and pick everything up with an animation, it would just kill this game completely. And on the flip side of that is, I hate when you're on a quest or a tale and you see something in the distance you want to go collect and you go a little too far off the path and it's like, no, you can't go that way. Even though this is an open world game, you got to go back on it's such an old style of open world game mechanics that I didn't think people did anymore. And it's almost like anti-open world. Even when you're doing like a small side quest, sometimes it would do it, I found, not the main quest, which I found really quite frustrating. I did like how you could track collectibles and everything with the wind. That was unique. And also tying into that, they had a lot of subtle environmental hints for all that stuff, which was really cool.
Like
the
the birds?
birds, the fireflies, the foxes, like all that stuff would lead you to it if you just paid close enough attention to the environment, which I thought was really strong. And like a lot of the stuff I didn't even notice until like 10 hours in. And then all of a sudden, it clicks and you start seeing this stuff that you missed before. And it was really, really neat, really subtle, but really perfectly done, I thought. And then let's see here. Oh, I had a gripe with towns. I had a real hard time sometimes finding the trader or the weaponsmith that I was looking for because there was no map of a town, which I was super frustrated with. And I would constantly try to use the wind to show me like where they are. And sometimes they would just not show up. And it was super, super frustrating. There was one town in particular, I can't remember what it was called, but the guy I was looking for was actually like not in the town, but he was like down beside some like waterfall or something. And I had no idea where he was. And it's just not well done. I don't know why they didn't include town maps or like that you could zoom in on your, on the pause screen or something. I don't know. It was really frustrating, or at least highlight the guys somehow better, because that I just got so frustrated with sometimes. It could be why I missed some of the upgrades. I just couldn't find the merchants or whatever to deal with. And I think that's about it for me. Let's see here.
I thought those are good points. I agree with all of those.
Okay, one more main mechanic, which I wish they went deeper into, is so throughout the game, I guess this is a little spoiler, but throughout the game, they play up sort of like the assassin versus samurai aspect of your person, like you becoming this ghost. And I really wish that they played that into the gameplay or the story more, because you have that choice at every standoff. You can either stand off, which is like the samurai way, or you could technically sneak around and assassinate everyone, which is the ghost way or the assassin way. And I wish that they had some sort of counter or gameplay aspect to that, where if you went more honorable, more samurai, at the end of the game, I don't know, it did something. Because it seemed like the whole time it's trying to push you in either of these directions and it's leaving it up to you to decide, but it never really plays out in any way that I can remember.
That's
other
true.
than the final decision at the very end of the game, but that really doesn't really have any tie to how you played the game. It's just how you feel, basically.
I agree with that. Kind of like a light and a dark side meter that kind of where a bonuses that would give you better stealth stuff if you decide to go the ghost way, or like the townspeople didn't talk to you if you went the ghost way, kind of stuff. Like,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anything. It just seemed like it had no payoff at all other than the story aspect.
Yeah. Well, I think I talked about this at some point on the regular show, but I think before the game came out, I mean, Sucker Punch is known for having these light and dark systems and playing as evil or good. It was part of the Infamous series. So, I mean, I assume the reason why that isn't there, not saying I don't agree with you, Huck, but there was just too many systems that they didn't want the player to not be able to use all the stuff they put into the game. Like, they probably put a ton of work into those other systems, and it's like, are we really going to say, like, don't do the stuff that we spent years making? Just
sure, totally.
So,
I just thought it tied in so well with the story. It would have been neat to kind of have the gameplay aspect as well. But
yeah, I agree.
I got more. Hang on. Back to techgasms. The cloth physics is incredible in this game. How the capes swirl around. I rarely saw any clipping through any equipment or any, whatever armor you threw on it. I never really saw much clipping through it, which is really an impressive feat. I think I mentioned the polish movement, and also the facial animations were really, really impressive. I can think of one cutscene in particular that involves fire and people screaming, and like people like begging for their lives, where I'm just like, wow, this is very, very believable because the facial animations are so good, and you can see the like cheeks moving and the brows burrowing and just like so much, and not even, and the lip syncing, everything was so well done. And Frank mentioned the huge map and the loading times already. I did one thing that was weird. I don't know if anyone else noticed this, but like there's a problem with the night and day cycle in this game, where you could be in middle of the day and then you talk to someone and then all of a sudden it's pitch black and then that conversation ends and then it's like morning time. Like the night and day cycle is all over the place. Did anyone else notice this? No? Okay.
I just noticed that there was a night and day cycle happening, and I thought it was cool whenever I noticed it, but I didn't notice it breaking.
Or like the weather conditions would like drastically change after you go through a small cutscene. I don't know.
That's like most games I find it like that. Like that, I always wish that like the weather stuff lasted for longer. Like when it rains, I love that shit. When it snows, I love it, but it's always just so quick. Like you ride through that area and it's gone. I always wish it's kind of stayed longer.
It just came up more than once for me, and it didn't. I mean, it's not a deal breaker. It was just surprising how sometimes it was so drastic, where you'd go from like middle of the night to day, or vice versa, and with no real story reason or anything. It just seemed to happen. And let's see here. Oh, the audio. We didn't touch on the audio yet. The soundtrack and the sound effects are really, really incredible in this game. I thought the music when you're just riding along is perfectly suited the game. All the like, battle sounds, everything was really good. I really liked everything audio had to offer for this game. I wish we had more specialty on the podcast to talk about it, because I'm sure there's like a lot of stuff they're doing with all the like blending of audio when you go into combat and stuff, but I didn't really pick up on it too well, but it was really good as well.
I agree.
All right, my rambling is over.
Should we talk about
anyone else have anything to add gameplay wise? Or maybe you were, Dax, sorry.
No, I wasn't.
I thought you were going to go story, so.
No, I was asking you about the
we'll talk about that.
extended stuff, yeah.
So, okay, overall experience, we'll get into some story stuff next, which might be spoiler, potentially. Just keep that in mind. But let's give our star ratings now. Out of 5 stars, what would you give Ghost of Tsushima?
I think I would probably give it a 4 out of 5.
I'm going to give it a 4 as well.
Yeah, I would say the same.
4s all around, undeniably, exactly the epitome out of a 4 out of 5 experience. Well done. Congrats to you all. You nailed it. You all nailed it. A 4 out of 5 game. There's no variation on this at all. I mean, I might accept a 7.5.
And I actually think if they cut the game down a bit, it could easily be a 5. If they just trim the fat of the, like you were saying, all the extra stuff that you don't need. I thought everything else was pretty strong in the main storyline.
For me, it wasn't even the story stuff. It was the gripes I have technically with it, like the kind of design hiccups and all the things that kind of take you out of having the fun that they're making you have is what brought it down a point for me.
True.
Is this the game, because people called for an Assassin's Creed samurai game for years? Is this the reason why they didn't do one, you think, this game?
No, I doubt it.
I don't know.
I always kind of thought they would do one because they always kind of covered all these different warrior backgrounds and never did samurai. But this is basically that.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't be able to do a better version than this, in my opinion.
No, I don't think so.
Because they don't pay as much attention to the world as this game did, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, let's move on to story. I personally don't have a ton to say about the story. I'm not huge on video game stories. I thought this one was pretty good. I remember some of the major plot turns which I thought were, I mean, that's saying something if I remember them, which I don't remember in a lot of video games. And the overall story idea of, you know, being a ghost versus an honorable samurai and how that intertwines with the uncle and the other aspects of the game. I thought those were pretty strong core story elements. As I said before, the story missions were the best missions in the game by far, which is to me the way it should be. So I like that. The stories in the mythic tales or whatever they were okay. And like the side character series of missions, I thought all of those characters, like the character, I guess I'll just say this, including the story characters and the side mission characters of like their tales, those characters were awesome. All the characters they created for the game I thought were excellent and unique. Kind of like Last of Us, like very strong character design and creating new characters. It was just the mission structure I had a problem with. But you already touched on this, like the motion capture and facial animation stuff was top notch, and the lighting and models in those story sequences were amazing.
Yeah,
That's
So
all.
much so that I just remembered this now is that they obviously didn't want to waste all this stuff, the facial animation, because you notice your main character always loses the mask every time the cinematic came on. If you're wearing this giant mask, and then of course every cinematic it's like a full face shot of you doing all your emoting and stuff.
classic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really liked it as well. I thought the overall, you're fighting to save Tsushima from the invaders was a really strong kind of like overarching story. And then the little minor things with your uncle and Yuna, I think, and who's the other person? Tanaka, her brother, were really strong. And the whole aspect of do you go samurai, the honorable route, or ghost was also kind of a nice little story bit in there. And it really did, you know, make you think as you were doing things, especially near the end when you start having to use more like the poison and stuff. And I just wish also you had more choice in that. Like you never really had the choice to not use the poison. So you always had to go the ghost route. I mean, obviously it's the name of the game, so that they're going to drive you that way. But it could be nice if you didn't have to use the poison, if you could go the other way and say, no, I am an honorable samurai, and then kind of refuse that aspect of the game. But it could be hard to drive a story that way. And I do wish I did more of the character side quest, because at the end, I didn't really feel much for those other characters. Like I thought they were good and what they were talking about made sense, but at the same time, I didn't feel like we were best buds going into the final battle together or anything like that. So I think if I had done more of their side quests and flushed out their story, I may have got a little more out of the kind of tail end story aspects of the game.
Scott, you taking notes, bud?
No.
you got to be taking notes. Like this is how we're giving you the perfect gameplay, game through loop here. Like this is how you run this. We're giving you the roadmap.
Oh yeah.
You got to do all the side quests. You got to do every single shrine. You got to talk to everybody's mythic quest.
Well,
do all that.
This could go one of two ways, and it hasn't driven me away from the game, so I'm thankful for that. I will continue to play for sure.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think you'll finish this game now? So I think
yes. Yeah, I think so.
The story is way too good. Like you'll like it. It's
like
good.
I said, like well, Huck was saying, the first 2 hours really drew him in, and I did enjoy a lot of the beginning kind of walkthrough, but I also did struggle to get into the game in those 2 hours, let's say. But let's say the 10 that followed was what made it better for me. So it's almost kind of that reverse a little bit. But I also was using your guys' advice of just following that main quest, because I think if I had branched off a lot, I would have been struggling with the repetitive nature of it. So yeah, no, it's good.
Should we talk about the final decision, or do we have other stuff to talk about with the story first?
I had forgotten about. I don't have anything else to add in terms of story. If anyone else,
me neither.
No. Yeah, we can talk final decision. I don't know if Scott wants to plug his ears for this one.
All good.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I remember. It's been a
Is it
while.
whether or not you
Oh.
kill your uncle?
Yeah. So do you? And this is another case where
Yeah,
I
like
told you it was coming.
this is another case where it would be nice if, like, the game you played had some impact on this, because it literally is just a dialogue choice, sort of. Do you do honorable or dishonorable, quote unquote? And it really doesn't take into account how you played the game per se. Like, you could have stealth killed every single person and then chose like the samurai way at the end or whatever, right? So it's kind of interesting. And how did you guys choose to end the tale?
I honestly do not remember, but I do
Oh, really?
remember. I do remember the feeling of, wow, this is like. I actually sat there with the two lines and went, okay, my gut is telling me to do this, because I'm usually a light side Jedi. I usually go that way.
I'm the same way. I think it was the case where I always do light side. I always do the right thing, the noble thing. And in this time, I was like, this guy was kind of a fucking dick. I'm chopping his head off.
I don't remember what I picked, but I'm pretty sure it would have been like, was there like a one where he gets to save his honor by dying, and then there was one where you don't let him die or something like that?
Yeah, you save his life and he is dishonored.
Right. I
think I killed him,
yeah, to give him his honor or whatever of his samurai's death or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
So did I.
I remember thinking about it. And kind of, it was a big decision that we've now robbed from Scott. And I was going to say something. We shouldn't have done that.
I told him ahead of time.
It's all good. Like I said, I won't even remember it.
Okay.
Like, oh yeah, that's this part. All good. I'll probably kill him. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, perfect then.
I did like how the quote unquote honorable thing was killing him. So you do have this moral choice to make on, like, sort of like, killing is bad, but also, do you do what he wants you to do? Or
it's also a very Japanese cultural thing too of that time, right? Like, that was a warrior's death is basically what it was, right? So, but
I just thought it was great because it like, in terms of not necessarily how you chose necessarily, but that they gave you that decision to make at the end, and that you were able to, kind of influence how it went. And it kind of makes you think, like, how, if you let him live, how that would have played out kind of going forward or whatnot. But
yeah, I can't remember like what it said in the story. I was just more like, well, I don't know a lot about the culture though, but like, isn't like why didn't he just kill himself? Like, is it
suicide is worse? I think seppuku is the ritual suicide thing, in the sense of like, you do it, but then like the samurai would cut your head off after you cut yourself in the stomach, kind of thing, or like done the whole disembowelment thing. It was a very ritual thing. But yeah, I don't know.
He did, and I just forgot that happens in the game.
No, I don't think he does that. I think it was just more or less like, I'm done. Like, kill me in battle, like honorably or something like that. And that's your choice to do that. Yeah. I actually like, story-wise, how they end the game. Like, you finish all that, and how the game kind of comes back in to now. Here's the rest of the open world. Like, and you've got this little story bit. Like, you're in your little house, and you're now the Ghost of Tsushima, and everybody, you're the legend. And I just thought that was kind of cool. I remember when I finished, I was like, wow. So now there's the rest of the game to do. And I kind of quickly stopped playing after that, but it was there, and it did make me feel that for a brief second of how cool that kind of would. Like,
I think I did the exact same thing.
Yeah. I was like, sweet, I'm going to play some more. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm tired. I got to quit this game right now.
I am a Ghost of Tsushima. I have platinumed this game.
Yeah, we get it, bud. We get it. You want to talk about the brand new stuff that I didn't know about until yesterday, pretty much, when Frank told me about it?
It just came out yesterday, though, I think.
Yeah,
Is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
so Frank they added a DLC for a multiplayer mode. Now, I will say this. I saw an article about this, I think on IGN, but it was They basically said multiplayer has always been a pillar of this game since the beginning of its design, which just reeks of bullshit to me. Like, how can your pillar not even be in the 60-hour game that, like, to throw the term pillar around, which I don't know if people like, these are like your fundamental aspects of your game. Your pillars of your game are things that are going to, influence the entire experience. To say multiplayer was a pillar is bullshit video game marketing nonsense. And I'm not having any of it. You take back that statement. You can say we always thought about multiplayer or we always wanted to do multiplayer. No problems. To say it was a pillar, you got to be fucking kidding me. Back that shit up right now.
Was that at one of your sponsored articles you read there?
No. This is just the Sucker Punch devs saying. I mean, I know they got to throw out this bullshit to make it sound better than it is, but don't insult my intelligence. It's a pillar, please. I'm disgusted. But Dax and I dipped into the multiplayer last night, and it was fun to start. Like, they kind of have 4 different classes with special abilities, and the menu, like the team, like, hub and the ranking systems and stuff, like it felt substantial. There was a lot of stuff going on there.
There's a lot to do.
After playing it for an hour and a half or 2 hours, whatever we did last night, even if it was that long, I was kind of like, yeah, it's kind of reminding me of the stuff I disliked the most in the game. Like, it's all the stuff that was my least favorite part of the game. It doesn't have any duels, standoffs, haikus, bamboos. All my favorite stuff is gone from this experience, and it's purely combat. I mean, I didn't talk about the bow and arrowing. I love bow and arrowing in every game, and this was no exception. But I like how I call archery bow and arrowing, and I'm
in bow and arrow all over this game.
So is it like a horde thing, or is it like a liberation type deal?
Horde mode type things where it's just waves of enemies. That's 4-player, 2 to 4-player. And we got matched up with randos online.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a story mode that's 2-player as well. Now, I will say the story felt pretty lazy. And it was
basically like getting you into these tower siege kind of things and killing guys and leaving.
And the whole design is kind of centered around these enemies that can regenerate enemies in their circle. And I wasn't really digging it all that much. It was okay. Like, it doesn't feel, I would probably give it like a 6 or 7 out of 10 or something like that, or 3.5 out of 5 stars using.
Well, like Frank was saying, it was fun. Like, we were kind of having a blast in the beginning of how he was, because he likes the bow and arrow, he picked the archer class that's stronger in archery, and I was the samurai. So like, I would go in front and he'd be like covering me, he'd be killing, like, I'd be fighting dudes, and all of a sudden I'd see a guy get hit with an arrow and fall down. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And it's the kind of thing. It's basically the game I never played, the Assassin's Creed 4-player. What was that called, Frank? The Assassin's Creed, where you could have 4. It was multiplayer. There were 4 assassins.
Well, there was like a multiplayer mode.
A multiplayer mode in one of the Assassin's games. It was for a system I didn't have at the time, but it was like literally an Assassin's Creed
stealth based. That was a completely stealth based.
But you had 4 people, and you would like, somebody would go this way and kill this guy, and it was kind of felt that way.
I don't know. I only played the multiplayer where it was like kind of team based, but you was just about trying to blend in and not get discovered.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, I got that kind of vibe, and then you mentioned it last night, so I thought, oh, that must be what the game was like. But for me, I played until 2:30 in the morning by myself.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, and then I played for 4 hours today. This is
back in,
and this
review.
I know, and this is the thing. This is a perfect example of how this part of the game is the stuff that I liked, and it's horde mode, so it's kind of like a branch to For Honor. It's the same kind of thing where like you just log in and do a horde wave with 4 people, and it's got leveling. You level up your character, you get better gear drops from things to give yourself better abilities. You also have a very smaller version of your skill tree. So like doing parrying arrows and stuff like that, you have to level up with chi to do that too. And it's saved per character type. So I'm just doing the samurai for now. So I'm leveling him up. And I'm actually having a lot of fun with it. The biggest problem, Frank had it happen to him twice. And it happens to me. I don't know if it's because it's new yesterday or whatever, but the PlayStation Network is dropping a lot. Like I
Oh,
would say
really?
once every 2 games it drops. And even when it says, I'm not used to PlayStation, so the menus, I'm not sure how this is how it always works in a game, but it feels more like a bug where it'll go, PlayStation Network has temporarily dropped, and it says like okay and back. Like it gives you 2 options to whatever. If you click either one of those, it just kind of goes boing and then brings that screen back up. And then basically you have to close the application and go back in and start load up the whole sucker punch thing again and play again. It was happening once every 2 matches, and these Horde Wave matches are about 30 minutes long. So if you've spent 20 minutes and then it crashes, you've lost all that progress. You get none of the XP, you get none of the gear. It's just a lost game. So
I did see they put out a patch to try to fix that, but it obviously didn't work.
Well, maybe I have to update it. I don't know. But
No, it came out. You would have been playing with it.
Stupid DNS issues with my PlayStation when I didn't have it as my primary console for detecting whether I had the rights to play it, and it would shut my game down. I don't know if that's a common issue with PlayStation, but it drives me crazy.
Yeah, it seems a lot more fickle than Xbox, to be honest. This is my first experience with being PlayStation Plus, my second, but
you did say Xbox has been shit lately.
Well, Xbox I find has problems with the party syncing up and like, yeah, and I did, but I'm just saying like things like dropping I don't have on Xbox, but things like party syncing and getting voice chat working in Xbox is a pain in the ass sometimes. Like we'll be on there and one person can hear somebody and somebody can't hear somebody and that kind of stuff. That's a problem. But I mean, even when I was playing regular story mode, like before the cast, a window popped up in the middle saying PlayStation Network, probably the DNS, that can't be located right now. But I'm like, I'm playing the solo play. Why is it telling me this right now? Like, I don't know. It was just weird.
That was in solo?
Yeah, in solo game, the thing popped up saying PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Network is not stable or something. I'm like, anyway.
It was okay. If you love the combat in this game, it might be worth checking out. I can't see myself like ever.
We're going to play after this, right? Come on and play a couple Horde Waves with me, bro?
I will. I might be compelled to do the story mode. I will never do that Horde mode again.
Then let's finish. We got to get those bronzes and they got to get the story finished, bud.
Sorry, I'm off PlayStation. I only did it for this review. I played PlayStation last night. That was.
And the first thing out of his mouth, Huck, guess what it was? Oh, this controller in my hand feels so good. It's like having 2 of the best controllers in your hand at once. Oh my god!
I think I said it was like touching 2 of my own dicks at the same
Oh.
Sure, I was trying to not go there, but sure, fair enough.
I know. Let's get the joke right. Like,
yeah, no problem. No problem. YouTube
so
demonetized. YouTube.
It's double simultaneous masturbation, but.
Yeah, he loves the controllers.
It is the best controller. Like, it is perfect for my hands, my little tiny hands. I love that controller more than anything. Oh, they better not have fucked it up too much. It is perfect. Oh my god, best.
I feel PlayStation hasn't really changed over the years. Like it's still.
Why did it change? Okay, just relax. It's changed big time. I think that's it. Unless anyone has any other questions or things they'd like to add.
Nope.
Scott, I'm sorry we ruined the story for you.
I don't even remember what you said, even at this point. Yeah,
Good.
It's all good.
Perfect.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to Dax and thanks to Scott for joining us. Appreciate it.
No problem, guys. It was a lot of fun.
I hope you finish it and enjoy the game. Dax,
I will do my best.
Okay, Dax, I hope you continue to enjoy online mode. Sans me.
We're playing later.
And Huck, you never even mentioned you won a lottery to get a free copy of the game.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I got some Sony payola of this game after I had beaten it, actually. I entered like a developer survey for Sony, and it was like a random draw to win a copy of the game, and then I ended up winning. So I got some sweet Sony payola for this game. No, I used it, obviously.
Well, you could have sold it, man. You already beat the game.
I guess so. I didn't think of that. I should have done that.
So I'm confused. You bought it and then you got a free copy of it?
No, I borrowed it from the library. Obviously, you don't do the show, Dax. I'm a little disappointed. I get every game from the library.
You can get it from the Welland Library, Dax. They're all free there.
I didn't know the games they gave
Oh.
games out of the library.
You should be listening to Game Junk podcast.
I should be.
That's
but,
all I talk about.
Well, as a Frank has a term for that, and when it comes to games and I want to buy it, I buy it.
He
Right,
buys
Frank?
it. He buys it.
I take it for a ride. I take it for a
Although
ride.
I will say,
God
this is a
knows I throw
perfect
the
example.
hashtag buy.
This is a perfect example. Just like movies now, I mean, see that over there?
Yes.
That's like a third of my DVD Blu-ray collection that literally never gets touched anymore. Everyone else must feel my pain. These guys who have giant collections, they're annoying. I never want to touch them again. Digital's the way to go. Getting games digitally is like the greatest thing ever. Not having to crack open. Oh, which one's in there? Oh, I can only run it when the disc is in the game.
Before we wrap up, because I mean, Scott is one of the biggest proponents, if not, he's pretty close to Jay, I would say. I'd say.
Well, no, I'm not close to Jay, but I still collect. Yes.
Yeah, you are into the physical collection, and
I am. Yeah.
I'm sure I've asked you this before. I can't remember. Do you feel the same way about games that you do about movies in terms of having physical copies of them?
Yeah, I like having the physical. Like I don't know. I still have this idea of having it myself, not taking up all that room, or at least pulling it off the system if you need to, and just reloading it back on. And also the selling aspect. It's rare that I would sell a game that I buy, but periodically I have, and sell it a week after, 2 weeks after, something, and get some okay money back for it. So that's my thought on it.
And just to reveal a bit of my personal insanity, when I saw Super Mario 3D All-Stars, when I thought it was hard to find at some point, they had it at Walmart, and I'm like, should I buy this?
How many copies did you buy?
And literally my train of thought was, should I go back and buy every Switch game physically?
Oh, jeez.
Everyone I've already bought? Should I have a physical Nintendo collection? Only because the Nintendo Switch cases are so small. Like they barely take up any space. Like, and Nintendo stuff has such high collection and resale value. I'm like, should I just do it for prosperity? But thankfully I talked myself out of that nonsense in a matter of 10 minutes. But it was a good 10-minute fight. Not gonna lie. I was arguing with myself for 10 minutes. Whether
he was torn in the Walmart parking lot, just sitting in his car.
Walmart store. I had to decide before I left the store. You can't leave that money on the table if you want it. But,
they could sell out of all those Nintendo cartridges today.
Well, it was apparently really hard to find initially. That's why I was surprised, but it was all still bullshit. Like, you're going to be able to get a PS5, no problem. Don't worry. November 26th, everyone.
Here's hoping.
Don't worry, Scott. You got my guarantee right now. If you want a PlayStation by November 26th, you will have one. You know what? Let's be a little more. Let's say November 31st. Is there 30 days?
30.
Yeah, November 3rd. November 30th, you will have one.
Okay, fair enough. Are you going to help me with that if I can't?
Oh, I'll definitely help you. If I see one, I already said I'll help you out no matter what.
Frank's good with stuff like that.
He's not interested in the PlayStation. He doesn't care.
No.
Frank is my go-to liaison for anything.
Kids is going crazy.
Love it.
Oh my God, I need a PlayStation. Oh my God, where can I get a PlayStation? Well, Xbox? Crickets. Nothing. Nobody gives a shit. Just had to put a little more fuel on the fire before we end this thing. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll be back, I assume, with a regular episode of Game Junk next week, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Everything people were bringing up, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that. Good. Yeah. It was good. Like, everyone was bringing up stuff that I was like, oh, I forgot about that. Good call. That was the worst.
That's what's interesting, like listening to you guys, because you honestly can dig in a lot more than I ever even comprehend when it comes to the game. Like, I see a lot of surface level stuff, and I'm okay to be a little naive with some of these games, but it's good getting kind of the other perspective, or insider perspective, if you will.
Oh yeah,
that is what the show is supposed to bring, I think.
Right.
That is supposed to be the hook. But
Oh, I forgot. I am a fan of how in this game, if you kill the horse, like if you jump too far, the horse doesn't actually die. Like in Red Dead, where you have to go get a new horse. It like
Oh,
at least
really?
it just stands up and you just like if you like jump off a cliff and land, the horse's legs break and you fall off the horse and you'd be like, oh, I just killed my horse, but then it just kind of gets back up and you get on top of it right away.
Kill your horse in Red Dead?
Oh yeah, if you
Oh,
jump
yeah.
off a cliff, you kill the horse, it's dead. You have to like, go out and lasso a new horse or go steal a horse from someone. It's kind of cool in that sense, but the amount of times you kill your horse in Red Dead is
Oh,
a lot.
I
A lot
hate
of accidental death in Red
that.
Dead.
Well, at least you can whistle down your horse whenever you want, unlike Zelda, where you have to like fucking go to the stupid stables to get your horse back all the time. Oh my god, it's so annoying.
Does my chair come through super loud?
Well, you can hear it squeak.
Sometimes,
but
but mine is way louder. Don't.
Okay, because I hear it sometimes in the show, and I'm not sure if it's yours or mine.
Yeah, I got to get a new chair. You hear that one?
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Could have a squeak off.